Hey there, Bible nerds. Welcome back to Chapters and Chuckles by Kaye, where we dive into the Bible chapter by chapter. If God told you stop walking in circles, would you obey or would you be like me in, say, Ross? I love Ross doing laps, just to look. Today we are diving into Deuteronomy episode 2, chapter 2. So grab your drink, get cozy, and let's dive in. All right, besties, Bible nerds, picture this. Moses is basically giving Israel the previously on recap, but with receipts. He's standing in front of a whole generation and he's like, let me tell y'all what really happened during our wilderness era. And Deuteronomy is where we watch Israel go from wandering to finally moving with purpose. All right, so first one, the we've been circling long enough moment. So chapter 2 opens with Israel doing the wilderness equivalent of being stuck in a roundabout with your blinker on, panicking. They've been skirting Mount Seir for many, many days, and then God basically says, okay, that's enough, head north. So that hits because it's not just a direction change, it's a season change. God tells them they're about to pass through the territory of their relatives, the descendants of Esau or Edom, and gives God gives them strict instructions. So don't pick a fight, don't provoke them, don't take their land, and pay for what you eat and drink. And I love this detail because Israel is not rolling through like conquerors here. They're rolling through like respectful guests with a debit card and manners. So from the Enduring Word, the website Enduring Word points out something important. They pointed out something important that I really like. Israel didn't just conquer whoever they wanted. They moved only when God directed them. No side quests, no, we're bored, let's fight somebody. God's timing and assignment mattered. And yeah, I've been using the Enduring Word. I actually bought the book. I've been using the Enduring Word a lot more lately on my research. Anyways, I digress. Also, Moses reminds them God had blessed them even in the wilderness. Their clothes didn't wear out, their feet didn't swell, and God provided through the whole mess. Which is honestly wild because, my feet practically swell if I look at salt. Imagine walking on salt. Anyways, so the second one, the Moab boundary. Like, not yours still means not yours. Then Israel moves along and gets near Moab. And God says again, do not harass Moab. I have given Ar to the descendants of Lot. So we've got a pattern. God is setting boundaries. Not everything that looks available is actually assigned to you. And then Moses does something sneaky, like a history teacher who suddenly goes, now let's talk about giants. He drops note about the Emim, a people described as large and tall, like the Anakim. They were considered part of the Rephaim, basically ancient giant clans, and Moab called them Emim. Emim. So this matters because Moses is showing Israel God already handled scary enemies in these regions before. He made a way for other nations too. The same God who have Edom land and help Moab settle can definitely get Israel into the promised land. Then comes a timeline gut punch. Moses notes it took about 38 years from leaving Kadesh Barnea until that wilderness generation was gone. So translation, disobedience is expensive. Not always in money, but in time. And time is more precious than money. So So Precept Austin summarizes the vibe as Moses encouraging the second generation as they prepare to enter the land. He's basically building their faith by showing God's steady guidance through the long stretch. All right, number 3, the Ammon boundary and the Zamzumim jump scare. Once the older generation had passed, God tells Moses to move again. And oh, by the way, so Precept Austin is just a Bible scholar that I'm quoting. Anyways, so where was I? So God tells Moses to move again, and now they approach the Ammonites, and God repeats it a third time: do not harass them. Their land isn't yours. Again, the Bible is making a point. God is not chaotic giver. He's not like, take whatever you snatch. He is orderly, purposely, and specific. Then Moses brings up another giant group, the Zamzumim, also connected to the Rephaim, who used to live in Ammon territory before the Ammonites dispossessed them. And you're like, why do we keep bringing up giants? Because fear is Israel's favorite excuse. God is basically saying, stop acting like big enemies. Stop acting like big enemies mean big problems. All right, number 4. So now the tone shifts. Sihon is a yes. So the chapter changes energy. God tells Moses, see, I have begun to give Sihon into your hands. Finally, a fight they're actually assigned to. But even here, Israel starts with diplomacy. Moses sends a message to Sihon, king of Heshbon, asking to pass through peacefully, promising they'll stay on the road and pay for food and water. Sihon says no, comes out ready to throw hands, and the text explains that the Lord hardened his spirit so Israel would defeat him. So this part can feel intense. So here's what we can say plainly from the chapter. The story is presenting Israel's victory as part of God's judicial, purposeful plan for the region, not random violence. And again, it highlights the bigger pattern. Israel wasn't freelancing. They moved under God's direction. Israel defeats Sihon, takes notice, and Moses notes they captured the land, while still emphasizing they did not cross into the Ammonite territory because God said no. That right there is spiritual maturity. Like, yes to what God assigns, no to what God forbids, even if it's nearby, even if it looks doable, even if it's tempting. Yeah. So God preparing his people to live under his rule and walk in his ways, not just enter a place. It's about alignment, not just arrival. And in this chapter, alignment looks like boundaries, trust, timing, and obedience. All right. So what's the main heart check in this chapter? God will not rush you, but he also won't let you live in circles forever. Some of us are praying for new doors while God is like, you still haven't finished the last instruction I gave you. Also, can we talk about how holy it is to respect what's not yours? Like, Israel could have justified snatching Edom, Moab, or Ammon's land. They could have said, but, we're God's people. And God would have been like, and I said no. Sometimes obedience is not doing bad things. Sometimes obedience is not doing unassigned things, if that makes sense. So, where's God telling you, to head north and stop circling? And a bonus question: where do you need to stop reaching for what God didn't give you? All right, fun fact corner. All right, first one. Edom, Moab, and Ammon are family adjacent nations. Edom comes from Esau, who is Jacob's brother, and Moab and Ammon comes from Lot's line. So God is literally having Israel practice don't start drama at the family reunion. All right, another one. The giant people names are real mood. Emim, Rephaim, Zamzumim. It sounds like Moses is reading from an ancient fantasy novel. And every time I read a fantasy novel, I just kind of murmur the names, like, because I never know how to pronounce it, right? And that's what these names sound like. But the point in the Bible text is consistent. Scary enemies existed, and God still moved history forward. All right. Yeah, so Israel finally gets a win, right? They take down Sihon, they're moving, they're building confidence, but then Moses is like, cool, because next up, there's another king. And this one is about to learn the hard way that God is not intimidated by big reputations. Because Deuteronomy Chapter 3 is coming, and let's just say Og of Bashan is about to step into the story like a boss battle. Alrighty, Bible nerds, that's Deuteronomy chapter 2, the chapter where God says stop circling and respect boundaries, and now it's time to move. If this hits you, share it with a friend who's been stuck in the same loop since 2017. You know who you are. And as always, stay curious. Grab your drink, get cozy, and I'll catch you in the next episode.